In this episode, we are going to talk about the reasons why Saudi Arabia wants to become part of the BRICS countries and the impact on the global economy. The South African president stated following his recent visit to Saudi Arabia that the oil-rich desert kingdom wants to join the BRICS, a large geopolitical bloc of Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. Over the past 2 decades, there has been an astonishing restructuring of global economic power. Saudi Arabia joining BRICS will be significant for the bloc as it is one of the most influential Arab and Muslim countries in the world. It is also showing that the Arab world move away from Washington, with Saudi Arabia particularly being one of the most pro-US countries in previous decades. This demonstrates that the attractiveness of BRICS has grown significantly in recent years, even in the face of West's attempt to isolate Russia because of its war in Ukraine. But what is the BRICS? BRICS is an important group bringing together the major emerging economies from the world, which include 41% of the world's population, 24% of the world's GDP, and over 16% share in world trade. BRICS countries have been the main engines of global economic growth over the years. Over a period of time, BRICS countries have come together to deliberate on important issues under the three pillars of political and securities, economic and financial, and cultural and people-to-people exchanges. The bloc is considered to have the fastest economic growth in the world. According to the global banking group Goldman Sachs, by 2050, the economies of the BRICS countries are expected to compete with the economies of the richest countries in the world. As a group, BRICS has an informal character. There is no authority, it does not work with fixed rules, nor does it have any funds to finance its activities. Ultimately, what sustains the mechanism is the political will of its members. However, BRICS have a degree of institutionalization, which is defined as the 5 countries intensifying their interaction. Meanwhile, BRICS cooperation in different areas, including local currency settlements, is expanding amid the US weaponization of the dollar. During a video address to the BRICS Business Forum in June, Russian President Vladimir Putin said that Russia was exploring the possibility of creating an international reserve currency based on the basket of BRICS currencies. Why does Saudi Arabia wants to be part of the BRICS? Since Russia's invasion of Ukraine on February 24 this year, BRICS has amplified its intentions of expansion. Iran, which holds the world's second largest gas reserves, has applied to join BRICS. This has raised concerns about whether Russia, a leading member of BRICS, is using the organization to push back against Western as it continues to seek new markets for its goods and services. Western nations have imposed economic sanctions against Russia following its invasion of Ukraine. The case of Saudi Arabia, however, is both curious and interesting. Saudi Arabia has traditionally been a close ally of the US in West Asia. But in the last few months, the relationship has undergone a roller coaster ride. During his electoral campaign, President Biden projected Saudi Arabia as a pariah state due to the Prince Salman's unproved involvement in the murder of Washington Post journalist. After coming to power, however, he changed his course and visited Saudi Arabia. This visit was intended to ensure the low price of oil to punish Russia. US geopolitically driven efforts to set a price cap on oil are seen as a dangerous move for commodity markets and could further aggravate global economic anxiety. The relationship between Riyadh and Washington was based on the US being supplied with cheap oil in exchange for Saudi Arabia's security. However, Washington has proven to be an unreliable partner, and Saudi Arabia can now more easily find alternative suppliers for security systems, including from BRICS members Russia, India, and China. Saudi Arabia's interest in joining BRICS could be an attempt to diversify its foreign policy. It may well be a move to send a message to Washington that it has other options available. At the moment, relations between Riyadh and Washington are arguably in a crisis. The Americans are angry that Saudi Arabia and OPEC decision to reduce oil production by 2 million barrels per day as it leads to higher fuel prices and increased inflation in the US. This is something the Biden administration is desperately trying to avoid right before the November's congressional elections. Just as important, it also weakened Western sanctions on Russia. The expanded rise in oil prices as a result of OPEC's decision could bring Russia more money than it losses from the US sanctions. It is for this reason that Washington accused Riyadh of fueling Putin's war machine, and why President Joe Biden interpreted Saudi Arabia's decision to cut oil production as an insult and is threatening consequences. Washington is reconsidering its alliance with Riyadh, and as one of the punitive measures, military aid to Saudi Arabia could be halted or reduced. What will be the consequences and whether the US has the capability to punish Saudi Arabia in today's world remain to be seen. The weakness of the American strategic influence is yet again exposed. Meanwhile, Saudi officials have made it clear that they will not take orders from the US. Saudi Arabia tried to downplay the importance of its decision and justify it as an action intended to protect its own economic interests. The US, which usually demands other countries to conform to its liberal worldview, has ignored Saudi Arabia's branch of human rights against minorities, women, and political opposition for decades. It is likely that Washington will begin a campaign of demonizing and pressuring Saudi Arabia for its lack of democracy and human rights. Differences between the US and Saudi Arabia have been noticeable for a long time. After Iran's attack on Saudi oil facility, Riyadh fell abandoned by the US. The Saudis have for a long time failed to get the weapons they wanted from the US, such as the long-range offensive drones. If the Saudis make a turn towards Russia and China, it is to be expected that Washington's punitive measures will also follow. Biden does not have the strength to fulfill the wishes expressed by the representative of the Democratic Party, who are demanding that the delivery of American weapons to Saudi Arabia be suspended. The US president postponed the issue until the November elections. Nonetheless, Saudi Arabia's state-owned oil company Aramco finalized a deal in March to build a major refinery in China, and then in the same month it was also announced that Arab countries were considering pricing oil deals with China in yen rather than the US dollar. With the announcement made, all signs highlight that Saudi Arabia recognizes the world order and system is changing, and for this reason it is boosting its relations with China and BRICS despite pressure and threats from Washington. Signals that many countries want to join BRICS demonstrate that more and more countries have faith in the group and its ability to offset the negative influence of certain countries' rising unilateralism and protectionism. Observers believe that it is the BRICS' great strength and potential in driving the world's economy and its important role in establishing a more equitable and rational global governance environment that is driving more countries to become part of BRICS in this turbulent area. In this year, when hedge money, Cold War mentality, and camp confrontation are prevalent and continuing to pose threats to the development of developing countries, their desire for an open, inclusive, mutual, respect-based collaboration is stronger than ever. Unlike the close and old-fashioned G7, BRIC has no strings attached and all cooperation is mutually beneficial.
Thank you so much for watching. As always, if you find this content helpful, smash that like and subscribe button, turn on the notification bell to be notified every time I post a new video, and see you in the next video. Stay safe.